Congressman Paul, South Carolina has 7 major military bases and thousands of people employed in the defense industry. But you want to make major cuts in defense spending, several $100 billion in the coming years, that inevitably would cost South Carolina jobs. What do you say to people in this state who worry that your military plans would hurt the national security and cost South Carolina jobs?
I would say your question suggests you're very confused about my position. I want to cut money, overseas money. That's what I want to do. I want to cut military money. I don't want to cut defense money. I want to bring the troops home. I'd probably have more bases here at home. We were closing them down in the 1990s and building them overseas. That's how we got into trouble. So we would save a lot more money and have a stronger national defense, and that's what we should do. But to say that we would be weaker is absolutely wrong, because another important thing you should consider is the fact that the military is behind me more than the others. I get twice as much money from the active military duties than all the other candidates put together. So they're saying that I'm on the right track. They're sick and tired of those wars. They're sick and tired of the nation building and the policing activity. But to say that we would have less money for defense, we actually have more money. And if I may, I'd like to go back to the international financial thing.
Congressman, just to be clear, your plan calls for freezing defense spending at 2006 levels, which is well below where we are today.
You still don't understand.
What's he missing, Congressman?
You don't understand there's a difference between military spending and defense spending. Just because you spend $1 billion on an embassy in Baghdad, bigger than the Vatican, you consider that defense spending. I consider that waste. So, now, if you want to, a little while ago, we were talking about, funding the unemployed. Of course, that should be privatized, and I don't support it. But I don't support cutting that off like that. I'd cut some of this military spending, like Eisenhower advised us. Watch out for the military-industrial complex. Defend this country. We have to have a strong national defense, but we don't get strength by diluting ourselves in 900 bases, 130 countries. That is where the problem is. But you need to understand that there's a difference between just military spending and defense spending. Just to spend money. We understand this domestically. If you spend more money domestically, we know it's wrong, but we're supposed to spend more money, and that's conservative. I've never quite understood this. We're supposed to be conservative, spend less money.
I'd like to ask a question about keeping money for all of the candidates down the line. What is the highest federal income tax any American should have to pay? We're looking for a number.
20% flat tax. Simple. Keep it simple.
Senator Santorum.
My plan has 2 rates, 10 and 28%, which is the highest rate under Ronald Reagan when he cut taxes.
Governor Romney.
I'd like to get it down to 25%, but right now it's at 35%, so people better pay what's legally required. But ultimately, let's get it down as low as we possibly can. If it's 20, if it's 25, but paying more than 25%, I think is taking too much out of our pockets.
So the highest you had was 35.
Well, that's what the law is right now. But 25 is where I'd like to see us go.
Speaker Gingrich.
I'd like to see it be a flat tax at 15%, and I'd like to see us reduce government to meet the revenue, not raise revenue to meet the government.
We should have the lowest tax that we've ever had, and up until 1913 it was 0%. What's so bad about that? Now, I would like to follow up on that, because I think the question on taxes is generally misleading. Because anytime you spend money, it's a tax. You might tax, you might borrow, you might inflate. The vicious tax is attacking the American people, the retired people today, is the inflation tax. The devaluation of the currency, the standard of living is going down, and you need to address that. And that's why I want to make the inflation tax 0 as well.
So your answer is 0?
0.
Okay, about taxes, Kelly?
Governor Romney, Speaker Gingrich, Senator Santorum, and now vocally tonight, Senator Perry, Governor Perry, are calling for you to release your tax records. The Obama campaign is asking for the same thing. Governor, will you release your income tax records?
You know, I looked at what has been done in campaigns in the past with Senator McCain and President George W. Bush and others. They've tended to release tax records in April or tax season. I hadn't planned on releasing tax records because the law requires us to release all of our assets, all the things we own. That I've already released. It's a pretty full disclosure. But you know, if that's been the tradition, and I'm not opposed to doing that, time will tell. But I anticipate that most likely I'm going to get asked to do that around the April time period, and I'll keep that open.
Governor, you will plan then to release your income tax records around April?
I think I've heard enough from folks saying, look, you know, let's see your tax records. I have nothing in them that suggests there's any problem, and I'm happy to do so. I sort of feel like we're showing a lot of exposure at this point, and if I become our nominee, and what's happened in history is people have released them in about April of the coming year, and that's probably what I do.
Okay, next round of questions, Juan Williams.
Governor Romney, your father was born in Mexico. You still have family there. Yet you have taken the hardest line of anyone on this stage on immigration reform, including opposition to key parts of the DREAM Act, which is supported by 80% of Latinos in this country. Are you alienating Latino voters that Republicans will need to win the general election?
You know, I think Latino voters, like all voters in this country, are interested in America being an opportunity nation. People come here because they believe they want to have a brighter future, and that's been the story of America. The president looks out across the country and says it could be worse. I can't believe saying that. The American people recognize it's got to be better. In my view, as long as we communicate to the people of all backgrounds in this country that it can be better and that America is a land of opportunity, we'll get those votes. Now, with regards to immigration policy, I absolutely believe that those who come here illegally should not be given favoritism or a special route to becoming permanent residents or citizens that's not given to those people that have stayed in line legally. I just think we have to follow the law. I think that's the right course. And I've indicated I would veto the DREAM Act if provisions included in that act say that people who are here illegally, if they go to school here long enough, get a degree here, that they can become permanent residents. I think that's a mistake. I think we have to follow the law and insist that those that have come here illegally ultimately return home, apply, get in line with everyone else. Look, I want people to know I love legal immigration. We're almost all of us in this room are descendants of immigrants or are immigrants ourselves. Our nation is stronger and more vibrant by virtue of a strong legal immigration system. I welcome that. But to protect our legal immigration system, we have got to protect our borders and stop the flood of illegal immigration, and I will not do anything that opens up another wave of illegal immigration.
Senator Santorum, the Obama administration has not specifically addressed high levels of joblessness and a 25% poverty rate in Black America. They say they want to fix the economy for all. But given the crisis situation among a group of historically disadvantaged Americans, do you feel the time has come to take special steps to deal with the extraordinary level of poverty afflicting one race of Americans?
Very interesting. If you look at a study that was done by the Brookings Institute back in 2009, they determined that if Americans do three things, they can avoid poverty. Three things: work, graduate from high school, and get married before you have children. Those three things if you do, according to Brookings, results in only 2% of people who do all those things ending up in poverty, and 77% above the national average in income. It's a huge, huge opportunity for us. But what is the Obama administration doing? Elaine Bennett runs a program called Best Friends, the wife of Bill Bennett. And she told me through Bill that the Obama administration now has a policy. And this program is a program targeted at-risk youth, specifically in many cases in the African-American community, who are at-risk young girls. The Obama administration now has regulations that tells them that they can no longer promote marriage to these young girls. They can no longer promote marriage as a way of avoiding poverty and bad choices that they make in their life. They can no longer actually even teach abstinence education. They have to be neutral with respect to how people behave. The problem is neutrality ends in poverty. Neutrality ends in choices that hurt people's lives. This administration is deliberately telling organizations that are there to help young girls make good choices not to tell them what the good choice is. That is absolutely unconscionable.
Congressman Paul, an analysis by the Prison Policy Initiative finds that blacks who are jailed at 4 times the rates of whites in South Carolina are most often convicted on drug offenses. Do you see racial disparities in drug-related arrests and convictions as a problem? And if so, how would you fix it?
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. There is a disparity. It's not that it's my opinion. It's very clear. Blacks and minorities who are involved with drugs are arrested disproportionately. They're tried, they're in prison disproportionately. They suffer the consequence of the death penalty disproportionately. Rich white people don't get the death penalty very often. And most of these are victimless crimes. Sometimes people can use drugs and arrested 3 times and never committed a violent act, and they can go to prison for life. And yet we see times, just recently we heard where actually murderers get out of prison in shorter periods of time. So I think it's way disproportionate. I don't think we can do a whole lot about it. I think there's discrimination in the system, but you have to address the drug war. You know, the drug war is very violent on our borders. We have the immigration problem, and I'm all for having, tight immigration policies, but we can't ignore the border without looking at the drug war. In the last 5 years, 47,500 people died in the drug war down there. This is a major thing going on, and it unfairly hits the minority. This is one thing. I am quite sure that Martin Luther King would be in agreement with me on this. Matter of fact, Martin Luther King would be in agreement with me on the wars as well, because he was a strong opponent to the Vietnam War. So I would say yes, this judicial system is probably one of the worst places. The military is behind me more than the others. I get twice as much money from the active military duties than all the other candidates put together.